Hi, and welcome to the Spooky Hours. My name's David Saunderson, and today we're talking to Darren Sarsfield from Manchester Paranormal. How are you, Darren?
I'm fine, thank you, David. Are you well?
Yes, I'm doing all right. You surviving the coronavirus lockdown?
Yeah, just about. I mean, we're all doing that. I've got a more grown-up family. My daughters and sons are older, but I'm still working. I'm a personal care assistant, so I'm still going to people's homes and stuff. So, yeah, we're doing okay.
Well, what are you doing paranormally then? Paranormally, how are you going paranormal wise at this time? Are you being able to? Obviously can't get out there. Are you being able to do anything that's of interest to Spooky Hours listeners, readers, viewers?
Well, basically, at the moment, like everybody else, we're all on lockdown, aren't we? So I've been reading a lot of books, trying to write a book, which I said I'd
Okay.
try and do for a long, long time. I mean, it might not be very interesting to everybody else, but to me, it's personally interesting. So my daughter's helping me with that. And basically, just trying to, read up on a few places and just, ready for when all this hopefully comes to a conclusion and everyone's getting back to normal lives, we can get out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been running Manchester Paranormal. You founded it in 2003. How did you come to starting your own paranormal investigation crew?
Yeah, well, it's like I suppose like most people. I grew up. First of all, I grew up in a really creepy home. We lived in a line of Victorian houses in a working class area of Manchester. As a young boy, some creepy things would happen in the house, and I suppose everyone else would normally get scared. I found it quite interesting. I wanted to know what was going on and why. Carried that on through my life, really, but through other interests and work, never really followed it up. And then 2003, thought, I'd really like to get into it. I was at a stage of my life where I played a lot of sport and, like I'm stopping playing sport. And I wanted to follow some of the passion what I've followed since I was a kid. So me and two other team members who are still with us now, and my cousins actually, we decided to form a small paranormal group because it was becoming popular at the time. Everyone was doing it, and we really had a massive passion for it. And it went from there. We started off with just calling ourselves Sarsfield Paranormal Investigations, which is pretty obvious. And then as we built the team up and we got people who we trusted, Manchester Paranormal started, and we got out there investigating. We got people's homes and historical buildings where we could. We'd run some events, and we got to a stage now where we can get to some places ourselves. Of interest historic, because we're all got massive interest in history, and to go into a place where you normally, if you were going to visit a museum, you'd have to walk, nice and, just look at this. Just to get into a building and look at a real history of a building was just as much important as the paranormal side.
Yeah. So what was the paranormal scene like in Manchester back in 2003? Were there other groups set up, or
Yeah,
were you one of the first?
yes, there was. Yeah, there was a few other groups around, but we started off, like going on other groups' events at first, just to find, get a bit of an understanding and everything. And we decided, we'd really like to do this ourselves, and because one of the main things which I find most important when you're doing paranormal investigations is you've got to respect the building, respect the people, and respect the history. And we felt all really strong about this, and we thought if we did this ourselves and we can convey our respect, people would know that we're an interesting group to work with. We never push our views on people. We show our views, and then they leave it to people to decide. So we really wanted to get into it that side. Manchester, as such, we've got out and about quite a lot because obviously other cities. Manchester's an industrial city. A lot of the buildings from like before the industrial age are gone now, but it's interesting from that side. So obviously, as investigators with an interest in history, you go to other places for the history. But Manchester's got a lot of very interesting buildings, which we found when we've investigated, with a lot of stories to tell themselves.
So what are the kind of buildings you do investigate? Do you go to people's homes, or do you mainly the sort of the historical properties or the big industrial factories?
Yeah, basically, as a team, we'll investigate anywhere. First and foremost, people will contact us. Just get in touch with us. We got to, because we've been going quite a long time. Word of mouth seems to get around, and we get a lot of people asking us to come and visit their homes and stuff. We always like to go in with the view of trying to prove something isn't. And then if there's something interesting, we'll say what we've at, but we try to find a natural reason for things because we want to help the families what's in their homes. Being a non-profit team and doing it solely for the interest of the paranormal and the subject and helping people. We did run a few events, and we still do from time to time, where we just get enough people to go just to cover the cost of a building with us.
Yeah.
And then we'll do it that way. But we've also been fortunate enough in recent years to be able to get into the buildings as a team on our own now. So, we've got quite a wide spectrum of what we do.
What do you have a personal belief in what the paranormal is, or what ghosts or spirits are that sort of informs the way that you investigate?
Yeah, well, we tend to go with the approach of, I know, and I've got total respect for all the other teams in the country. Everyone's got the different views on the subject. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, we respect everybody's views. We just have our own opinions. But we like to go with the approach of non-provoking. We like to go in, we believe that if there is such a thing as a spirit, or a person in spirit, there'll be just as much as we were in life. So most people aren't killers or evil. Most people are, just normal people. They might be grumpy with a sense of humour. And so we try to go in with a respectful angle. And we seem to get some, quite good results doing it that way.
So what have you learnt in the time? So you've been doing this for nearly, not far off 20 years now. What have you learnt in that time about what this thing is that we call the paranormal? Well,
we've learned that basically from our point of view, we've got these 6 of us on the team. We've got two people still are quite sceptical. They're always looking for, a natural reason. But from personal experiences, I do believe that there's people in spirit. I do believe that people can be trapped where they are. And I do believe people come with visitation. Just from my personal experiences, what I've had, while out and about investigating. One thing we like to do some things like a time slip experiment, where we'll set a scenario what would suit where we are. And we get quite a lot of good results from that. And just from from what we've experienced personally ourselves, I personally believe that it's definitely people in spirit. And but no one can say what the reason is, why they're still here. You can only sort of have the interaction or contact you get when you're investigating. You don't actually get a definitive view of, oh, this is the reason. But I do believe that people are in spirit and that they do try and contact us.
You just said it before. I was just interested. How do you set up a time slip scenario?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, just as an example, there's a theatre in Bacup, which is not far away from Manchester. It's called Bacup Royal Court Theatre. Has appeared on television numerous occasions on numerous shows. And one of our team, we've got some interesting members on our team. One of our team's an A&E nurse who's actually working through all this now, and we're very proud of him. Another one of our team is a professional singer, and he actually won Stars in Your Eyes on ITV in 2015. Unbelievably. I mean, not unbelievable because he's a fantastic artist, but I mean, it's the kind of thing that you don't normally get happening to you, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, Peter, who's the member I'm talking about, Peter Sarsfield, being a singer, being in a theatre dating back to the 1900s when there's all the great variety shows and vaudeville acts and all that kind of stuff. So he learnt a song from that period. So there was only the team in the theatre. So we sat a few people downstairs, a few people higher up in the auditorium, and acted like as if we were an audience. And Peter went onto the stage. He got announced as, like they would have done in them days. And he sang a vaudeville song. And it was so eerie, just sat in a quiet theatre in the dark. Yeah. Listening to how somebody would have done it, and the reactions we got from it was quite bizarre. We heard laughter. Now we knew where all the team members were, and you got to accept that. Could it be as anyone watching this now? Could it be a team member doing it? But we heard laughter, which we couldn't pin down. Coughing, bizarre things. But the weird, strangest thing is, I was sat at the top of the auditorium, so I could see down on everything, and all the seats when we went to the theatre, we checked them all. We checked them with the owner. We knew they were old seats. We knew there was a possibility seats could drop. So we checked that everything was up. We asked her in her experience, which you just have to take a word. Has anything ever happened? You know, with seats falling down. She said on the odd occasion, the seat can drop gently. So anyway, we was watching Peter sing, and while he was singing, the seat 2 seats away from me, the seat just went bang, really loud, thrashed down, jumped in the air. What's going on? And she said it's never happened before on the people's other investigations, and we couldn't find a logical reason. It could possibly be that it just fell, but it was really bizarre. And those kind of experiments, we find that we do get some interesting results from.
Do you tend to do different sorts of experiments? Like, what are the kind of things you would do when you went on an investigation?
Yeah, we do quite a lot. What, you know, obviously a lot of other teams will do. We'll set trigger objects, the usual asking out, but we like to do interesting things like we've done with the time slips. But mainly, it's sitting around just listening. We find that even though we use a lot of equipment, we like to investigate using all sorts of things. But for me personally, the best way of investigation is your eyes, your ears, recorders to try and catch EVPs and cameras, and just sit quiet and just let things happen to you. We do use a lot of equipment, but I quite like the old school way, like just nice and quiet and listen out and see what you get.
Who's probably been one of your bigger influences in paranormal investigation? What is how have you learnt what you know?
Well, obviously, I mean, I've read a lot of books, early on before everything got popular on telly. A lot of the big cases what everybody knew about, like the Amityville horrors and all stuff. But it's more from personal experience, really, like growing up and some of the strange things that's happened, some strange things that's happened in my own home, and like just the experience of investigating and getting out there more than an influence from any particular person, really.
Okay. Is Manchester a place someone like myself should go to investigate? I mean, it's one of Britain's biggest cities, so it should have a fair few spooks there.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some really good history to it. Like I said, a lot tends to go back to the industrial age and things like that. But there's a public house in the centre of Manchester called the Shakespeare, which is renowned for a lot of ghostly happenings there. There is a lot of places, but in Manchester, it's a bit difficult. You sort of like tend to investigate a lot of public houses and places like that, which tend to be a lot of the oldest buildings in Manchester, bizarrely. If you go to somewhere like Nottingham or York, you got full of history. But obviously, something can happen bizarrely in a modern house as much as it can happen in a 600-year-old building. But in Manchester, there's quite a few interesting places, but probably not as many as other cities, to visit, to investigate. We do because we're the Manchester investigation team. We get invited to some local, a lot of public houses and that kind of thing, which we've had some really interesting phenomena.
So so tell us about one of them then. What have you ever seen a ghost?
You know what, David? We've been investigating now all these years, and 2 bizarre things has happened to me where I've actually seen something. I've actually seen something fleetingly stood behind me at Bolling Hall in Bradford. Bolling Hall dates back hundreds of years, and it's got a lot of history, the Battle of Roses and stuff like that. And I was stood in this like a medieval kitchen, and I was stood near a great big fireplace, but I had the fireplace back to me, and I was just facing it, watching the investigation unroll. You just have something's behind you, something's standing, and I fleetingly turned across to my shoulder, and I thought what I seen was a man. He looked like he was in his 30s, like kind of sackcloth clothing, but he's very fleeting, stubble, greasy, and he was literally behind me, just fleetingly like that. That, and one other occasion at Boldewydyn Castle in Wales, where 3 of us actually seen something. That was interesting.
You wrote about that for us. I'll put the link in the bottom. Yeah. You wrote about that for us a while back. So well, it is good, because I can imagine there must be people that do this for all their lives and don't get to see anything or don't get to feel anything.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with television, it tends to look as if hundreds of things are happening all the time. we've investigated many hours where literally nothing's happened. To us, a little small thing happening is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like in when you're investigating for hours and hours, and you go to a lot of places, they're there to perform, are they? So sometimes you go to a place and nothing will happen, but I'll get as much enjoyment out of that as catching something, because if you're doing something genuinely and nothing happens, nothing happens. But we've seen enough to like make us believe, like some of the team anyway.
Are there any places that you haven't investigated, maybe in Manchester or surrounding areas, that you would like to one day?
Yes, there's a police station in Salford which has got a massive building. It's been blocked off for a long time, and not been used for a long time. It's had a lot of, like its history's had a lot of stories with the paranormal, and we've always wanted to get into it, but because it's part of obviously the police and working place, it's so difficult to get into. And I'm still trying, and I've been trying for many years to get into there. But that's definitely a place I'd love to get into. Definitely.
Okay. Well, I'd like to finish off by asking, what would be your advice to someone who was going to start paranormal investigating today? Obviously not today, because no one can get out of their houses. But if you were going to go on your first ghost hunt, what would you have been able to have told yourself?
Well, the very first ghost hunt we went to was a place called Galleries of Justice, and it just it's like if somebody came into that room now, alive, and bang behind you, jump. You can jump like that from things happening on the paranormal. It's just staying calm, be true to yourself, and be respectful. Don't provoke, because, like I said, in my belief, most people, if they are in spirit, they would be normal, everyday people with the grumpy ways. You will come across some nasty ones, but always try to be respectful, calm and respectful, and respect respect the building where you're at, and respect the property, because it's somebody's property, and just be very, very respectful. And also, if you're going out on your first investigations, take simple equipment, just sit there, and then check it thoroughly when you get home, and then just do it just that kind of way, I'd suggest.
And that sounds like really good advice. Now, how can people get in contact with you if they would want to? Have you got a web address or an email address?
Yeah, we've got an email address, which is Manchester Paranormal at live.co.uk, and also we're on the Facebook page as Manchester Paranormal. There is a couple of other groups in our time that's got names quite similar. So if you look at Manchester Paranormal and tap that, and you'll get us up on Facebook, and there's contacts on there.
And then I'll find Darren Sarsfield, and we'll put the link down the bottom anyway. So anyway, Darren, you take care of yourself. We look forward to when you finally finish the book that you're writing.
Yeah.
I assume it's paranormal?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It's just it's just a personal thing. It's just to get it down, like from when I was a child, some of the strange things that might, happen when I was a kid, and some of the stories of our investigations along the way, and it's just that kind of thing. It's just, in this time with all what's going on, it's just been a good time to just give it a go and see what happens. Might take me a long time.
Well, anyway, when you do get it, tell us, because I definitely want to read it. Anyway, you take care, and we'll talk to you later. Okay?
Thank you, David. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. See you, Darren. Bye-bye.
Thank you.